then.
All right, it's Friday. It's time for the morning check-in. As always, looking forward to connecting and sharing some interesting headlines, to say the least. And it looks like everything is centered around debt heading into 2025. And based upon the charts, it's not looking good. And so President Trump, incoming President Trump, going to have a lot on his hands. And unfortunately, it looks like it's time to pay the piper for the most part. And so as always, looking forward to connecting. Definitely love to find out more of what you guys are keeping your eyes on. So as always, feel free to leave some thoughts, ideas, suggestions in the chat. And we're going to go through a lot of headlines today. And of course, everything comes for the most part from the rtd.news webpage, where I put all the news stories that I believe is worth your attention this morning. So feel free to definitely head there. Links in the description. Check that out. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Make sure you click the bell notification so you'll always be informed when we go live. And Lord willing, if everything is flowing smoothly, we should be good to go. So over the last day or two, having technical issues, things beyond my control, which makes it challenging to put the stories together to try to bring it to you guys. But here we are. So I'm going to make the most of this. Won't be before you guys long, but just want to kick off this weekend with just some things worth being aware of. Not necessarily concerned with or scared about, but just things that we have to face because this is the way the monetary system is set up. So it's going to be an interesting morning. But before that, I want to get into some good news, a way, as I mentioned, about just giving you a well-rounded approach to how to process everything. And I believe it starts with having a sound and steady relationship with your creator. And of course, I'm referring to the daily devotionals that I love to share just because it helps get my morning started. And I hope that it might do the same for you, depending on whatever you're watching this. So we're going to jump into that to get into some resources and then jump into the primary headlines of the day. So as I bring it up on the screen here, this is the daily word from the devotional. So I'll zoom in so I can see a little bit better, read it to you, just give you something to chew on. And hopefully it is a blessing to you the way it has been a blessing to me. So as you can see it nice and big there, I'll thumb through it real quick and just read it off to you and give you something to chew on, spiritually speaking. So it says, do you want to know what truly matters to God? In John 6:29, Jesus says, this is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he has sent. Then it goes on to say, what a profound and simple truth. Many of us think we have to toil endlessly trying to impress God with our deeds. But it says Jesus shifts the focus entirely. Quote, the work that pleases God isn't about doing, it's about believing. So this echoes the prophecy in Habakkuk 2:4. It says, the just shall live by faith. Then it says, faith isn't passive, it's a foundation of action. When you believe in Jesus, you align yourself with the kingdom of God. Your trust activates his power, his provision, and his promises in your life. So today, ask yourself, are you striving to work for God, or are you working from a place of faith in him? Rest in the truth that believing in Jesus is the ultimate work that pleases God, and it's the gateway to eternal life in his kingdom. And then the last sentence here says, believe and let the kingdom of God work through you. And there you have it, the good word for the day. Just something to get your spiritual wheels churning this morning. Hopefully that is a blessing to you. Okay, so let's not waste any more time, man. I'm getting into some resources. Then we're going to jump right into the headlines. And as always, lots of things worth touching on. So we're going to do as much as we can today and make the most of it. So let's get into it. Let me exit a couple of things out on my side here so I can close out some windows so things flow a little smoother. But anyway, let's get into it. And because you never know who's new to the channel, I gotta make sure I provide resources for everybody just to make sure everyone has all the information they need. As you can see on the screen here above me, here's the page for colonialsmetalsgroup.com, which is my partners that helps the community do something outside the box in reference to being able to take possession of, i.e., through a self-directed IRA. So on this form here, as you can see, you can fill out this form here and get this little book here. And this is basically just a pamphlet, give you an idea as to what's going on with the program and what the opportunity is and the importance of gold and silver in your physical possession, directly in your own personal vault or in a depository not far from you where you can actually hold everything that you've worked so hard for in the form of gold and silver, as well as other asset classes that might be of interest to you. So once again, if you're interested, go to colonialsmetalsgroup.com/RTD. I'll actually bring it up on the screen here so you can see it for yourself and feel free to reach out and get all your questions answered. That is the goal. We're just providing options for people. So as you can see here, colonialsmetalsgroup.com/RTD. Give them a call, 188-521, and let them know Mike sent you. Okay, so that's just one opportunity there. The next one is something I also want to continue to remind people the opportunity that is before them. So I'll make myself a little bit smaller here, but as you can see here, I'm surrounded by gold notes or gold bags. And so we are in a world where gold and silver is, for the most part, being ignored or frowned upon by our mainstream media because of all this digital, Bitcoin, ETF, financialization of the digital asset space. And so gold and silver is not getting as much attention as it should. And therefore, that lets me know that's where they don't want you to go. So here you have the most affordable way of getting physical gold. And as you can see here, the price of getting the actual 24 karat gold note in your possession has never been more affordable. So all the way from this half note to this 50 piece here on the screen, if I can get that on the screen here, as you see here, these are just some ways to get physical gold in your possession. So if you're interested, feel free to go to buygoldnotes.com where you can actually acquire these notes and protect and preserve everything you work hard for in gold form. And this is just one of many ways that you can utilize this program if you want, but just something for those who are interested in the most affordable gold that you can possess, in my opinion. And so that's just something that's available. Okay, next one here. I want to make sure everybody's aware of the importance of getting physical. So here we have what I call the Quick Silver Wealth Accelerated Program, which is the Silver Team. And that's the part of the program that a lot of the community members are a part of. We get a chance to dollar cost average into silver monthly by automating your weight. Don't have to worry about the price of it. It just comes in the mail automatically. It's just a way of saving time, energy, and effort and being able to save directly without even going through the hoops of all that type of other stuff. But if you're interested in doing such, here is a good opportunity to get more information. So as you can see over my shoulder right here, we had the opportunity to get a free 1 gram shipped directly to your household. And along with this, you get an information pack. And this basically just gives you information to the program. So if you're interested, click the link in the description and you can get a chance to hold this 1 gram Balcambi bar for free per one per household. So just a way to put some weight in your hands if you're interested. Links in the description. Check it out. And you won't be disappointed for sure. Who gets disappointed with getting anything free apart from shipping and handling? And on top of that, it is the people's money. So anyway, check it out if you guys are interested. All right, let's jump right into it, man. I want to, before I move forward, look at some price action. Let's see what's happening in the markets, just because as I was preparing to log on, I didn't have a chance to really, let me close some windows here. Didn't have a chance to see what was happening in the markets this morning. So we're going to do that this morning and then keep it moving. And as I mentioned beforehand, having issues on the technical side with the software, the internet, or whatever, don't know, but here we are. So let's make the most of it. So on the screen here, as you guys can see, we have some activity right now. Looks like gold, silver, platinum, palladium are all in the green. And we got gold at 2,600. We have silver at 2,942, below that $30 mark, which has been, I guess, it was the ceiling forever. Now it's broken through that to where now it's become the floor, if I'm saying that correctly. But once again, manipulation is your friend. Take advantage of the opportunities as they present themselves, because it looks, based upon all the debt that's coming due, we're going to have a lot more stimulus coming. Therefore, gold and silver, we'll see how they respond as far as treating the futures markets with all that paper pushing that stuff they do. But okay, so let's get into some headlines. Now, I want to bring something to your attention. So this video here is more so predicated around the debt refinance issue that's coming in 2025 under Donald Trump's presidency, pending everything goes smoothly, he gets office and everything else. But based upon the numbers that the current administration, the Biden has, and Janet Yellen has, based upon the amount of borrowing they've done, it's become very problematic because it was done at a time where interest rates were relatively low. And now that they're a lot higher now, it's going to be hard to roll that debt over without it causing some type of debt issue outside of what we already have. And so there's a lot of articles I'm going to share with you referring to the debt and the problems behind it, to where it just makes it that much more complicated for them to try to keep this narrative that everything is hunky dory. And so when I see things like this, it lets me know that they, meaning the federal government and the overseers of this system, they're going to be in need of more distractions to cover up the debt issues that we face, because they can never address the problem. They can only compound the ones we currently have by creating either false flag events or letting certain pockets of the economy falter so that they can come in and rescue it. And they artificially juice the markets in an attempt to save that area, which buys more time for everything else. So it becomes very complicated on the surface, but underneath it's quite simple. The best way to cover up the debt is to create more of it and hope the world never wakes up to the fact that we're being robbed in real time. Okay, so enough rant. Let's get into it, man. Let me bring my stories up. So this is what I want to lead with. This is something from Zero Hedge that came out yesterday that really got me thinking. So this is from Zero Hedge, came out yesterday at in the morning, and so 522,000 views. But it's very telling as to what is happening. As you can see above my head here, it says, let's read it. Let's read through this because I got some articles that highlights this, showing how bad things really are from a debt perspective. But it says here, behold, the Bidenomics miracle, a 2 trillion flood of excess bill issuance to soak up the reverse repo, overstimulate the economy, and win the election. Oops. And so basically what they're hinting at is that Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary under the Biden administration for the last 2 years in particular, and more so the entire administration of Biden, was all predicated on oversaturating the market with debt instruments, short term, not the long term, just because they needed buyers. And everybody at this current moment realized that there's no future in holding long term liabilities of our government, 10-year, 20, 30-year treasuries, just because the long term bonds, just because interest rates for those longer date maturity mechanisms are so low that you're getting robbed in real times. Higher interest rates in the shorter term. So they issued a lot more, therefore, creating this artificial supply of short term debt that needs to be addressed because it's all 1, 2, or shorter instruments, and it's coming due pretty soon. And so just the visual aid here highlights how much bill issuance was issued, as it says here, from 2022 all the way to this current time frame. They've they've increased the debt astronomically. We talked about that the last video I did, the actual numbers in reference to the deficit. But this is what it looks like in a visual aid. And so these instruments here, let me zoom in here. We have the different colors gives you the different time frames in which these debt instruments were taken out. So you have the orange is 4 week, you have the 2 month, you have the 13 week, 17, 26, 52 week. So all these bill issuance time frames here were done in the last 2 years, and they're all short date, meaning that they're coming due pretty soon. So this 2 trillion is literally was the current administration's way of falsifying the books by keeping things afloat, making it seem as if the economy was booming, but really they're borrowing, sending funds everywhere, i.e., juicing the markets, making everything look hunky dory, but it's all debt driven. And it says here, and now the reverse repo is empty. Bills have to be converted to coupons at much higher rates. Reserves have to be drained. Dogs and cats living together. So, to sum it all up, those short term bills are now due. Interest rates are a lot higher from the time they were taken out to now, and therefore, rolling them over to longer dated debt instruments will cost our government substantially. And that's just 2 trillion within that 2-year time frame. Not to mention things taken out before that is due. And what I'm referring to, let's go to the RTD News page here. So here is RTD News. So if you guys want to get a lot of these articles that I put out here, just type in rtd.news. It'll take you here, and every single thing that comes out that's newsworthy, I try to put on here. And so I have more stories than I'll actually be able to get to. So that's why I'll just hint at some. And if you're curious to find out more, you can go read it for yourself. So you'll have the way to get it done. But the very first one, the default rate on U.S. junk bonds has risen to its fastest pace in 4 years. So we're talking about in the public sector, the government issues are problematic, but on the private side, all corporations that's issued junk debt for the most part, it's now also coming due. So once again, non-profitable companies won't be able to really service all those debts. So what will they do? Lay off, sell off, and lay off employees massively, end up having to sell or close or liquidate type all their assets to make due on these debts or file for bankruptcy for a lot of these junk companies now, something else. And then it doesn't get any better when you have the head of the Doge department, Elon Musk, that says America will be toast and the US dollar will be worth nothing without fast action. And then this is from Yahoo, so we'll jump on this one. But as you can see here, let me just share with you what is going on here. So it says here, Elon Musk says America will be toast and US dollar will be worth nothing without fast action. What does he mean? Let's go right into it. America is undeniably an economic powerhouse, but Tesla CEO Elon Musk, the richest person in the US and the world, is sounding the alarm about financial future. The country is going bankrupt. And this is where it's supposed to sound good, but he's still lying. And how is he lying? Because let me zoom in here. You can tell this is still a very optimistic outlook. The country is going bankrupt. Like what going means is there's still some time left. Technically speaking, based upon the deficit we have and all the stuff that's coming due, which I'm going to show you even more, because I just referenced 2 trillion based upon the past 2 years. But in actuality, it's 7 trillion based upon the last 4+ years. I'm going to show you that graph in a minute. But it says the country is going bankrupt. If we don't take action, the dollar's going to be worth nothing, said during a recent appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. And so the fact that they're mentioning this, and this came out December 24th, so it's a couple days old, but they're mentioning this as if there's something that can be done. Because he's talking about taking action. The Doge department, which is whatever they're trying to accomplish with it, there's no way they can cut enough excess expenditures from our government to be able to get back into a surplus, just because the current debt load that we're carrying is beyond our ability to sustain it. Then you have interest rates on the debt that is a problem that our government is going to have issues servicing. So once again, I just read this and said the country is going bankrupt. I'm like, if he really was truthful and honest with the people, he would say the country is bankrupt and literally we're going to go through some type of default. Like this is a quasi default right now. And as long as the Federal Reserve note, AKA this instrument, still spins, the world will continue to revolve and function. But the moment global creditors publicly acknowledge that we will no longer accept U.S. liabilities, AKA our bonds, treasuries, or the currency, game over. And that's why I believe a big push for this Bitcoin adoption and Bitcoin reserves is designed to cover up the default that is probably underway right now as we speak, because we're not going bankrupt. We are bankrupt. And once again, it's the confidence game. As long as people have confidence in the currency, it can go on a little bit longer. So something we're paying attention to. But if you guys want to find out more about the article, feel free to click the link in the description and it'll be there for you. But let's keep it moving. We got more in American Debt We Trust. I'm not going to go through all this. I want to go to some ones. The dollar dominance is a key to U.S. debt and deficits. Let me share something with you that I want to, we got to go down. But these are just our articles worth your time if you want them. Let's get into this one here. Give me a second here. Let me get myself together here. Okay, so here we get into the nitty gritty. This is what I wanted to talk about, as it says on the screen here. The 7 trillion time bomb. Treasury faces financing crisis in 2025. So this just compounds on the numbers as they grow. Let's check this out. So this came from an article, the Dunlap Deep Dive, 3 interesting things I'm looking at. And this was a couple of weeks ago, but it's timely because the visual aid in here that I want to share pretty much says it all. As we go to number 2, this is the primary subject. I can read through this, but I won't. But I'll show you the graph and the numbers. And if you guys want to find out more, go dive deeper for yourself. But it says, yikes. There's a 7 trillion refinancing challenge in 2025 for the U.S. Treasury. What is it referring to? It says in 2025, nearly 7 trillion, roughly a quarter of total U.S. marketable debt must be refinanced. And this is our stuff that was brought into existence in deficit spending for our government that was all shorter term borrowing. It says the U.S. government spent $900 billion on interest alone in 2024, surpassing defense, Medicare, and federal spending on children. And this could climb further with rising rates. The rates are going up regardless. And just to show you what I'm referring to, here we have the 10-year, which is used as like the global benchmark. And this thing is continually climbing upward. So as you can see here, we're at 5. And as you can see here, since it bottomed out in September 16th, the lowest was 6% on a 10-year note. And so since then, it has been climbing steadily, took a little bit of a dip, but it is now back to where it was in April, May. And that is of concern because they're needing to refinance heading into 2025, and it's going to be closer to 5%. So all that debt was taken out when we were back here when it was one, one and a half, one and a quarter. You're going back to even the beginning of administration, it was not even one. It was under 1% to borrow. So all the stuff that was taken out during this time frame here is now up for refinancing, while things are 4 or 5%. So they borrowed when it was extremely low. Now that it's going to be a little bit pricey, this is the problem that we're facing. Okay, so back to the article real quick. It says what you need to know. The U.S. Treasury faces $7 trillion in debt set up mature in 25, representing a spike in refinancing needs compared to surrounding years. So why it matters? As bond yields climb, the $7 trillion debt maturing in 25 could significantly increase borrowing costs further, straining the already stretched national budget. In 2024, the U.S. government spent nearly $900 billion on interest payments alone. Then it goes on and says Donald Trump's pick for Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent face some serious issues in the coming year as roughly a quarter, which is $7 trillion of the $28 trillion in marketable U.S. debt matures. And so the question now is, how will they maneuver around the need to refinance close to $7 trillion? And so literally, they're going to have to borrow on top of that because they won't be able to cut nothing in time that'll make up the difference. So that's why this is just trying to read through all the recent mumbo jumbo coming out from the Trump administration. One thing that really caught my attention was how he's on this like public campaign trying to buy countries and take over countries. So literally within the last couple of days, let me grab some articles here. Let me see here. Let me go back here. Give me a second here. Let me go back to the main news page here. Then we'll come back to this article. But let me share. Okay, go back. Let me share some things here because I'm sure you guys are aware of it. But these are just things I'm wondering. What is this guy out here talking big and bad, trying to take over other nations? That's like he's talking as if he's a real estate guru, like he's trying to make acquisitions in the midst of this debt default. Let me see if I can find it. Give me a second here. Where is it at? Fed is cutting, Illuminati, no, Trump stay out. Ooh, okay, silver apocalypse, rate cut. Donald Trump will do anything crazy. Bitcoin, nope. Okay, I don't know where it's at. It's on here somewhere. But the point in case is, literally within the last couple weeks or so, I've noticed and I saw headlines where Donald Trump is talking about taking over the Panama Canal. That's one. Talking about Canada merging and becoming the 51st state. That's two. And then he's floating the idea again of buying Greenland. So think about that. Those are three relatively important territories or regions. The canal controls the trade route between the Eastern and West Hemisphere. So that will be excess revenue if the U.S. was to get possession of that again, even though they helped Panama build it and funded it and stuff like that. But that'll be tax revenue that they will be able to receive that will help towards this. Then Canada, I don't see how the U.S. could acquire Canada when Canada is the property of the British monarchy, aka King Charles. That's his territory because he's the quasi the Commonwealth, the British Commonwealth is the overseer of all of those vast resources in Canada. So it's good to say that King Charles is not going to be giving up any of his assets because the U.S. needs it unless he wants to allow the U.S. dollar to continue to remain the primary medium because once again, the British Crown benefits from it in so many ways by them still having ownership over the most part of the corporation of the United States. So he could allow them to front like they're owning Canada, and then through all the natural resources in Canada, the U.S. does certain types of activity allow revenue to be generated for tax purposes here. Greenland is just an untapped block of ice, barring what we know from what's under that ice. That could be an asset as well for either the trade route that way or just a variety of natural resources, I'm sure, that's under that ice there or within the ice. So those are three ways that they can create new streams of income possibly, but not in time to service this $7 trillion debt. So those are things that all have me wondering, how will they pull this off? And so it's going to need a heck of a boom to distract the world from this debt crisis that we're witnessing. But then again, that MAGA wealth effect that I always refer to is something he has to make sure he placates to that as well. And that comes through the crypto space because he'll never touch the idea of gold and silver because that's prohibited. Interesting times, but 7 trillion, 2 trillion, two is within that seven. But 2025 is refinancing time. So, out of curiosity, what do you think he's going to do? And we'll see how he can pull this one off because unless you pay that off, which I don't see where the funds will come from, I'm not quite sure how America is going to look great as all this unfolds. Hence the idea of a default. Because if you can't pay it, you either paper over it more, which is inflating the debt, which is also a default against the holders of the currency ultimately. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But that's just that. Okay, keep it moving. A couple other things worth mentioning on the list here. Just as you see, I'm not going to go into deep, but as you can see here, some interesting comments about Mr. Bill Gates are starting to surface. More people are concerned with his continuous push to get people participating. And then here's a little interesting piece from Jim Willie sharing his thoughts on silver. That's interesting. Another little thing I think is interesting. This concerns me because on the surface it sounds good, but you got to ask yourself, how will the powers that be respond to this? And it might look good at first, but the after effects of stuff like this will be very problematic because whenever something is disrupted, it is the precursor for a future event. And so here, Trump's day one WHO exit plan sparks debate as U.S. set to leave global health body. So anybody who's been paying attention to what's been happening in the world, we all know that all this is intentional. So this is a public-private partnership under the economic agenda to execute Agenda 2030, i.e., the 2025 mass population issue that's a couple months away. If we get to 2025 and that portion of the 2025 forecast of the amount of lives that will be lost, hopefully they come up short of that number substantially. But once again, we know that they got the H1N1, they got the bird flu here, they got this there, they got something popping off, all types of diseases that are hitting at the same time. Lets us know where they want this thing to go. But the idea of Trump talking ahead of time, all this pre-talk before he becomes president is what's dangerous because it literally, if there is an enemy, so there's two camps. There's Trump is a part of the swamp and it's just all one big facade that he's playing as if he's really helping us. And then there's the other side of this, which is people really think that he is anti-deep state and he's really going to make America great again. So whatever camp you fall in, it's irrelevant because it's all about the forces that are above him, which are the principalities and powers I talk about that will accomplish their goal regardless. It's just a timing, whether it be immediately or in the long run. But we all know where this is going for those who read the Bible. And so it's just a matter of how much more time will we get to enjoy life in this current realm that we're in and the way that it is. But it says by him removing the U.S. from the WHO is of concern to me because it will immediately put pressure on the pharmaceutical industry and everybody else for that next event because they would always want to say, we told you so. You shouldn't have removed us because now we won't be able to cooperate and come together for this current event that's unfolding right now. Of course, that event is something that they released and intentionally put out there, but get my drift. But to me, when I see this, I'm like, man, this is just more in line with the agenda because if we do, if we don't, just because depopulation is the enemy's ultimate game plan. Like we know that they want to reduce the population of the earth and they're going to accomplish that one way or the other. And so the WHO, even though it doesn't help, to me, that's just more of a reason for them to throw something his way and then say that it's your fault that our country's suffering. And if we had not left, we could have come together faster. And then, of course, his advisory team is going to give him some recommendations, and they're all based upon further doing these things based upon the technology that's already been approved by Donald Trump during his last presidency. So his signature already signed off on the technology to become adoptable for every future event we have. They're going to use mRNA vaccine technology in everything moving forward as a result of his signature. So it won't be surprise to me if there's an event and he signs off on something else. Just like whenever there's a banking event, he signs off on the stable coin, i.e., the CBDC. Like he's going to sign off on anything that comes his way because that is a part of the plan. Now, the time, the speed at which it comes is to be determined, but don't hold your breath thinking that one man is going to do anything for you. It's not possible. Everything that we're experiencing in this natural life must unfold to get us to the eternal life aspect where the kingdom of God will be physically established. And between now and then, there's going to be a lot of calamity. It's going to be a lot of lives lost. That's why you make sure your spiritual house is in order. Make sure your soul has been reunited with its creator, i.e., Yahweh. So that's just me, a little rant there. But anyway, about 30 minutes or so. There's more news, more stories, but I'll spare you guys that. But if you guys want more juice as far as the stories, the narratives, then go over to the RTD news page. That's why I put it together. And that's going to be one of the things I look to really encourage people to visit because that's where I'm going to put all the news that I talk about. So if you guys have it, click the link in the description and then go over rtd.news and all those articles will be there waiting on you if you want to read more. And yeah, it goes on and on. So every day there's all the top stories of the web. So you get a lot of information for those who want it. So it is available to you. And as well, all the resources on how to protect and preserve everything you worked hard for is also in the description. So anyway, be blessed, be safe. See you guys later. Have a great weekend. Love, live, laugh, learn, and get a rest of God. Let him be him, king of your life. Shalom.